Welcome to my channel.
I am Lisa.
And I am Eric. If you improve your English, this podcast is perfect for you.
So grab a snack, sit back, and let's dive into today's words. So, what are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is essential. Then we will continue with consent and to display, then to stand out. And the final one is break the ice. Before moving on, I want to say that 2 of today's words are requests from our followers. They wanted us to explain the words consent and to display. So, our followers, if you have some words you want us to explain, please write them down in the comments section.
Great. We are looking forward to the words from our followers. Okay, let's start with the first word, Eric.
The first word is essential.
Great. Let's explain what essential means.
Essential means very important or necessary. It's something that you really need and can't do without.
That's right. We use essential to talk about things that are crucial or absolutely needed.
Let me give an example sentence. Water is essential for life. It means that we can't live without water.
Good example. Here's another one. A passport is essential for international travel. It means that you must have a passport if you want to travel to other countries. You can't go without it.
That's a great example, Lisa. Now, let's have a sample dialogue to show how we might use this word in a conversation.
Okay, class, let's talk about what's essential for our camping trip next week.
Is a sleeping bag essential, Ms. Johnson?
Yes, a sleeping bag is absolutely essential. You'll need it to stay warm at night.
What about a phone? Is that essential too?
Well, a phone can be useful, but it's not essential. The most essential items are food, water, and warm clothes.
That was a good use of essential in context. I really like how it shows the difference between things that are essential and things that are just nice to have.
Yes, it's a useful word for setting priorities. So, Eric, what do you think is essential for learning a new language?
Well, I think, first of all, studying regularly is essential for learning a language. You need to keep on using it to improve.
I agree with that. I also think having a good dictionary is essential for language learners. It helps you understand new words.
That's true. It's essential to have tools that help you learn.
Definitely. You know, I find it interesting that essential can be different depending on the situation and people.
You're right. For example, a coat is essential in cold weather, but not in hot weather or for people living in hot countries.
Exactly. Essential things for everybody can change based on their needs and conditions.
That's right, Lisa. Well, I think we've covered essential pretty well. Essential is an essential word for English learners to know.
Uh-huh. Nice wordplay, Eric.
Thank you, Lisa.
Shall we move on to our next word?
Yes, let's do that. We still have a few more essential words to explain today.
Great. What's next on our list?
The next word is consent.
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 Consent is a noun, and it means to give permission or to agree to something. When you give your consent, you are saying, like, yes, it's okay. Or, okay, you can do it.
Yes, that's a good way to put it, Lisa. Now, let's look at an example sentence. She gave her consent to the project. It means that she agreed to the project or said it was okay to move forward with it.
Here's another example. He asked for her consent before sharing the photo. It means that he wanted to make sure she was okay with him sharing the photo, so he asked her first.
It's also important to remember that consent can be both a noun and a verb. As a verb, it changes slightly to consent to. For example, she consented to the plan. which means she agreed to the plan.
Yes, good point, Eric. Now, let's give our listeners a short dialogue to see how consent can be used in a conversation.
We need to get the manager's consent before we start this new project.
I agree. Without her consent, we can't move forward.
Let's write an email to ask for her consent today.
In this dialogue, Anna and Mike are talking about needing their manager's consent before starting a new project. Anna says they need to get the manager's consent, meaning they need to get her permission because they can't continue without the manager saying it's okay.
Exactly, Eric. So in this conversation, they use the word consent 3 times, each time meaning permission or agreement.
Yes, Lisa, consent is a very important word in both professional and personal situations. Remember to always ask for consent when something might affect someone else. It's both polite and necessary. What do you think, Lisa? Is it hard to ask for consent sometimes?
I think it can be a little hard, especially if you're not sure what the other person will say. But it's always better to ask for consent. Asking for consent shows respect for the other person's feelings and choices.
Yes, I think so. Sometimes people forget or think it's not necessary, but it really is, whether it's something small, like sharing a photo, or something bigger.
I completely agree, Eric. And for our listeners, it's important to practice using the word consent correctly in sentences. It will help you be more polite and clear in your communication.
Yes, and remember the difference between consent as a noun and as a verb. It's a useful word to know in many different situations.
That's right. We hope our followers now have a better understanding of the word consent and how to use it. Let's move on to the next word.
The next word is to display.
To display.
To display. To display is a verb that means to show something or put it where people can see it clearly. It can be used for objects, information, or even feelings. For example, the museum displays many old paintings.
Good example. It means that the museum shows or exhibits many old paintings for visitors to see.
Exactly. Can you give the next example, Lisa?
Sure. Here's my example. John likes to display his trophies on a shelf in his room. It means that John puts his trophies on a shelf in his room so that people can see them easily.
That's right. We can also use display as a noun, like a display of flowers or on display in the shop window.
Good point, Eric. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue using our word display.
Hi, Sarah. Can you help me display these new products?
Sure. Where do you want to display them?
Let's display the books on this shelf and the toys in the window display.
Okay. Should we display the prices too?
Yes, please. It's important to display the prices clearly for customers.
That was a great dialogue. The shop owner and Sarah used our word display several times to talk about showing products in the shop.
I agree. Good displays can make things look more interesting or beautiful. Have you ever seen a display that really impressed you?
Yes, I remember. A great window display in a big city store. The clothes and decorations looked amazing. What about you, Eric?
I loved a display of old cars I saw at a museum. It made me feel like I was back in time. A good display can make people excited or interested in something.
Yes. Sometimes a nice display in a shop window makes me want to go inside and buy. Well, that's all we have time for with our word display. Let's move on to our next word.
The next word is stand out.
Stand out.
Stand out. Stand out is a phrasal verb. It means to be very noticeable or to be different from others in a way that is easy to see. When something or someone stands out, they are easily seen or noticed because they are different or special.
That's right. We use stand out when we want to describe something that catches our attention or is remarkable.
Let me give an example sentence. Her bright red hair made her stand out in the crowd. It means that because of her red hair, people easily noticed her among many other people.
Here's another one. John's presentation stood out as the best in the class. It means that John's presentation was noticeably better than all the other presentations in the class.
That's a great example, Lisa. It's important to note that stand out is a phrasal verb. We can use it with from, like stand out from the rest.
Now, let's have a sample dialogue to show how we might use this phrase in a conversation.
We need to make our new product stand out from our competitors.
I agree. How can we make it stand out?
Well, we could use bright colors for the packaging. That would make it stand out on store shelves.
That's a good idea. We could also add a unique feature that our competitors don't have.
Excellent suggestion. That would really make our product stand out in the market.
That was a good use of stand out in a business context. I like how it showed different ways something can stand out.
Yes, it's a versatile phrase. So, Eric, have you ever done anything to try to stand out?
Well, when I was applying for jobs, I tried to make my resume stand out by using a creative design. What about you, Lisa?
That's a good idea. I once wore a very colorful outfit to a party to stand out. It worked. Everyone noticed me.
That's fun. It's interesting how we can stand out in different ways, isn't it?
Definitely. Sometimes standing out can be about looks, like in my example, but other times it's about skills or actions.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered stand out pretty thoroughly. This explanation really stands out, doesn't it?
Yes, I think our listeners will understand this phrase well now. What's next on our list?
This is our last word of today. The last word is break the ice.
Oh, that's an interesting phrase. Let's explain what it means.
Break the ice is an idiom that means to do or say something to make people feel more comfortable in a social situation, especially when they don't know each other well.
That's right. It's often used when people are meeting for the first time or when there's an awkward silence in a conversation.
Let me give an example sentence. The teacher asked everyone to introduce themselves to break the ice on the first day of class. It means that the teacher wanted the students to feel more comfortable by talking about themselves.
Good example. Here's another one. At the party, John told a funny joke to break the ice. It means that John used humor to make people feel more relaxed and start talking to each other.
Now, let's have a sample dialogue to show how we might use this phrase in a conversation.
Hey, Mike. How was the first meeting with your new team at work?
It was a bit awkward at first. No one was talking much.
Oh no, what did you do?
Well, I decided to break the ice by asking everyone about their favorite hobbies.
That's a good idea. Did it work?
Yes, it really helped to break the ice. Soon everyone was chatting and laughing.
That was a good use of break the ice in context. So, Eric, can you think of a time when you had to break the ice?
Well, when I joined a new sports club, I broke the ice by asking people about their favorite teams. What about you, Lisa?
Oh, I once broke the ice at a party by starting a fun group game. It really helped everyone relax and start talking.
That's a great way to break the ice. Games can be very effective for that.
Definitely. It's interesting how many different ways there are to break the ice, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I think the key is to find something that makes people feel comfortable and encourages them to talk.
I agree. Breaking the ice can really help in making new friends or starting new relationships.
Well said, Lisa. Okay, I think we have reached the end of today's episode.
Yes, Eric. Thank you for listening to Simply Explained English. We hope you learned something new today.
Don't forget to subscribe and like our videos. See you next time.
Bye-bye. I am Lisa.
And I am Eric. If you want to improve your English, this podcast is perfect for you.
So, let's get started and make English learning easy. What are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is exuberant. Then we will continue with conflict and to boast. Then lighten up. And the final one is once in a blue moon. Before moving on, I'd like to say today's word list consists of the words our followers wanted us to teach. Thank them for their suggestions.
Great. We are looking forward to the words from our followers. Okay, let's start with the first word.
The first word is exuberant.
Exuberant.
Exuberant. Exuberant is an adjective. It describes someone or something that is full of energy, excitement, and happiness. When someone is exuberant, they are very lively and cheerful. It's a word you can use when you want to express a lot of positive energy.
Exactly. Let me give you the first example sentence. The children were exuberant after winning the soccer match. It means that the children were very happy and full of energy because they won the soccer match.
That's a perfect way to show how exuberant is used. Now, I'll give you another example. Samantha's exuberant personality makes everyone around her feel cheerful. It means that Samantha is so lively and full of positive energy that she makes everyone around her feel happy.
Also, it's important to remember that exuberant is also used even in nature, like saying, the garden was exuberant with colorful flowers, meaning the garden was very lively and full of bright colors.
Yes, that's a good point. Now, let's give our listeners a short dialogue to see how exuberant can be used in a conversation.
Wow, everyone was so exuberant at the party last night.
I know, right? The music and dancing made the whole night feel so lively and fun. I've never seen people so exuberant before.
Me neither. It was great to see everyone so happy and full of energy.
In this dialogue, Emily says, everyone was exuberant at the party, meaning they were all full of energy and very happy.
That's right, Lisa. The word exuberant here helps us understand that the party wasn't just fun, it was full of life and energy.
Exactly. Eric, is it common to use exuberant in everyday conversation?
I think it's not as common as some other words, but it's very useful when you want to express something with a lot of enthusiasm. For example, it's perfect for describing special events or very lively people.
I agree. And for our listeners, using exuberant in the right situation can really make your English sound more expressive and interesting.
Absolutely, Lisa. So, to all our listeners, try using exuberant next time you want to describe something that's full of life and energy. It's a great way to add some extra flavor to your English.
Okay, well, let's move on to our next word. What's the next word, Eric?
The next word is conflict.
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 Conflict. This is a word we hear a lot, even in everyday life.
That's true. Conflict means a serious disagreement or argument. It can be between people, groups, or even countries.
Is it like different ideas or opinions where people disagree strongly?
Yes, Lisa. For example, you might hear someone say, "There's a lot of conflict in that family."
Does it mean that the family members argue and disagree a lot? They don't get along very well?
Exactly. Can you give the next example, Lisa?
Okay, this is mine. The two countries had a conflict over territory. This means that the two countries disagreed strongly about who owned a particular area of land.
Good example. Lisa, now let's talk about how to use this word. Conflict can be used as both a noun and a verb. As a noun, we can say a conflict or the conflict. As a verb, we say to conflict with something. Their schedules conflict with each other, which means their schedules don't agree or match up.
Yes. Now let's listen to a short dialogue where conflict is used.
Hey, did you hear about the meeting this morning?
No, what happened?
There was a bit of a conflict between John and Sarah about the new marketing plan. They really disagreed.
Oh no, really? That's not good. Because of the conflict, we might not continue the plan.
In this dialogue, the colleagues are talking about a conflict that happened during a meeting.
Yes, and it sounds like this conflict was a bit unusual for them because they usually work well together.
Exactly, Lisa. Conflicts can happen in many different situations, at work, at home, or even between countries. What do you think, Lisa? How should people handle conflicts?
I think the best way to handle a conflict is to talk about it calmly and try to find a solution that everyone agrees on. It's important to listen to the other person and to be respectful.
I agree with you, Lisa. I think communication is key. If you talk openly and honestly, you can usually find a way to solve the conflict.
That's right, Eric. Remember, conflict means a serious disagreement or argument. We hope our followers learned something new today. Okay, let's move on to our next word. What's next on our list, Eric?
The next word is to boast.
To boast.
To boast.
Okay, let's explain what to boast means.
To boast is a verb that means to talk with too much pride about something you have done or something you have.
Is it similar to brag about, the word we have learned in episode 75?
That's right, Lisa. We had explained brag about in episode 75. It's very similar. Now let me give an example sentence. John always boasts about his new car to his friends.
Good example. It means that John often talks proudly about his new car to his friends in an uncomfortable or annoyed way.
Can you give us the next example, Lisa?
Sure. Here's my example. The company boasted about its high sales figures.
Great one. It means that the company talked very proudly about how much they had sold, probably to make themselves look good.
Now, let's talk about how to use this word. To boast is often followed by about when we're talking about the things someone is proud of. We can say to boast about something.
That's right. We can also use it with that, like he boasted that he was the best player on the team.
Good point, Eric. Now let's listen to a short dialogue using our word to boast.
Hey, did you hear about Tom's new job?
No. What about it?
Well, he won't stop boasting about it. He keeps saying it's the best job in the world and that he's making so much money.
That's too bad. It's not nice to boast so much. Maybe he's just very excited?
Maybe. But I wish he would tone it down a bit. It's making everyone uncomfortable.
You're right. Maybe we should talk to him about it.
That was a great dialogue. The friends used our word to boast to talk about Tom, who was talking too proudly about his new job.
Yes, they did. Do you think it's ever okay to boast, Eric?
That's a good question. I think it's okay to be proud of something, but maybe not to boast too much.
I agree. It's nice to share good news, but boasting can make other people feel bad.
Yes, it can be annoying sometimes. I prefer it when people are more modest.
I feel the same way. I think being in balance with your success is better than bragging about it.
Good point, Lisa. Well, I think our followers have understood the word to boast. Let's move on to our next word. The next word is lighten up.
Lighten up.
Lighten up.
Okay, so what does lighten up mean, Eric?
Lighten up means to relax and not be so serious or worried about something.
Exactly. It's like saying, take it easy. or chill out.
Yes, Lisa, we also explained chill out in episode 76. Our followers can watch it to understand chill out and lighten up. Okay, we often use it when someone is being too serious or stressed about something. Let's give our listeners some examples. Lisa, would you like to go first?
Sure, here's an example. Come on, John, lighten up. It's just a game, you don't have to win every time. So, in this example, John is probably taking the game too seriously, and the speaker wants him to relax and enjoy himself.
Perfect. Here's another example. I know you're stressed about the presentation, but try to lighten up a bit. It'll be over soon. In this case, the speaker is trying to comfort someone who is feeling anxious about their presentation.
Right. Now, how about a sample dialogue, Eric?
Sounds good.
Sarah, honey, why are you sitting here all alone? The other kids are playing tag.
I wanted to play hopscotch, but Emily said I couldn't join their game.
Oh, sweetie, I'm sorry to hear that. Honey, lighten up. Why don't you go find another game to play? Or you can even start your own game.
Okay, Mom. You're right. Maybe I'll ask Michael and Ben if they want to play tag with me.
Ah, that was sweet. Poor Sarah was feeling left out, but her mom gave her some good advice.
Yeah, I think it's a good example of how we can use lighten up to encourage someone not to be sad.
Do you think it's always easy to lighten up, Eric?
That's a good question. I think sometimes it can be hard to lighten up when we're really worried.
I agree. It's not always easy, but it can be helpful. Do you think some people find it easier to lighten up than others?
Yes, I think so. Some people seem to be more relaxed naturally. Have you ever met someone who always seems lightened up?
Yes, my cousin is like that. She's always smiling and relaxed.
Really? I love people with that character. Being too serious all the time can be stressful.
I agree. It's good to be serious sometimes, but also to know when to lighten up and relax.
That makes sense. Well, that's all we have time for with our phrase, lighten up. Let's move on to our last word. The last word of today is once in a blue moon.
Once in a blue moon.
Once in a blue moon.
Okay, let's explain what once in a blue moon means. It's an idiom that means very rarely or almost never. We use it to talk about things that don't happen often at all.
That's right, Lisa. Now, let me give an example sentence. I only eat fast foods once in a blue moon because I'm trying to be healthy.
Good example. It means that the person eats fast foods very rarely because they want to stay healthy.
Exactly. Now, Lisa, can you give us another example?
Sure. Here's my example. My grandfather visits us once in a blue moon since he lives far away. It means that my grandfather visits very rarely because he lives far away.
Okay, now let's listen to a short dialogue using our phrase, once in a blue moon.
Hey, do you want to go to that new fancy restaurant tonight?
Oh, I don't know. It's pretty expensive.
Come on. We only go out like this once in a blue moon. And it's your birthday. We should celebrate.
Well, when you put it that way. Okay, let's go. It is once in a blue moon that we do something special like this.
Great! I'm sure we'll have a wonderful time.
That was a great dialogue. The friends used our phrase, once in a blue moon, to talk about doing something special. That doesn't happen often.
Yes, they did. Eric, is there something you do once in a blue moon?
Oh, all the time. For example, I love to go to the cinema, but I only go once in a blue moon now because I'm so busy with the podcast. What about you?
Me too. I love to read novels, but I only find the time to read once in a blue moon. We work too hard.
But at least we like what we do.
Very true. I hope our followers like our podcast as well. If they like our podcast, we'll be happier and do our best to make a better podcast.
I agree. So our followers, please don't forget to like our podcast and make a comment. We'll appreciate it.
Okay, Eric. I think we have reached the end of today's episode.
Yes, Lisa. Thank you for listening to Simply Explained English. We hope you learned something new today.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.